Namaste and welcome to this session wherein I'm going to talk about the sublords of the zodiac, as also the timing of the events. Of course, in this first part, I'm going to cover only the subs and the sublords, and thereafter, in the end, I am going to connect the Krishnamurti Paddhati, which uses these subs and the sublords effectively for reading or judging a chart. Okay, now let me share the screen to go further from here. We all know that the zodiac is divided into 12 signs starting from Aries to Pisces, and each sign spans for 30 degrees. In addition, we also have 27 nakshatras spanning 13 degrees 20 minutes, and we have 27 nakshatras covering the complete zodiac. If we go beyond the nakshatra, we divide each nakshatra into 9 subs. Now, if you notice here, the 9 subdivisions do not span the equal longitudinal distance. As also, the precedence of these subs is different for each of the nakshatras. And this is how I'm going to cover in detail as to what is the logic of having 249 subs in the zodiac, and what is the span of each sub, as also what is the precedence of the subs in each nakshatra. As you see over here, a sub of Sun spans for 40 minutes, and the sub of Venus spans for 2 degrees 13 minutes and 20 seconds. It is based upon the Vimshotri Dasha. Vimshotri Dasha is the most potent Dasha in the Kali Yuga, as has been told by Maharishi Parashar in Brihad Parashar Hora Shastra. Now, if we divide the signs into the subs, we get 22 subs in the sign of Aries, 19 in the sign of Taurus, and likewise 21 each in the sign of Gemini and Cancer. So if we total up these 4, we get a total of 83. Now this is in the span of 120 degrees, that is the first Gandanta. Now if you recollect, we have 3 Gandantas of 120 degrees each, given by each of these rows here. And in the first Gandanta, we have 83. Likewise, in the other 3 Gandantas, from covering each 120 degrees, we get 83 in each of these Gandantas. So 83 into 3, we get a total of 249 subs. However, when we calculate these with respect to the nakshatras, as I said previously that we subdivide each nakshatra into 9 subs, we get a total of 243. Then how do we get these 6 extra subs? Now these are the subs which we get extra in these blue sensitive zones that I have marked here. At these junctions, when the sign lord changes, the star and the sublord remains same. So at the junction of Aries and Taurus, the sub of Rahu gets divided. The sign lord changes, whereas the star lord, that is the nakshatra lord, remains same, that is Sun. Kritika is the nakshatra which gets divided here into 1 and 3 charans respectively in signs of Aries and Taurus. The lordship of Sun remains same, as also the lordship of the sub here remains same as that of Rahu. So practically we get an extra sub here with the change of sign here. Likewise, when the sign changes from Gemini to Cancer, we have an additional sub of Moon here. So in the nakshatras of Jupiter and in the nakshatra of Sun, we have 10 subs each. So in a span of 120 degrees, we get 2 extra subs, one each of Rahu and Moon. And in the rest of the 2 Gandantas also, we get one each of Rahu and Moon. So that is a total of 2 3s are 6 subs. So that makes a total of 249 subs. So that is the mathematical logic as to why we have 249 subs in the zodiac. Now going further from here, now I will be covering as to what is the precedence of the subs in each of the nakshatras of the zodiac. Okay. Now this is the list of the nakshatras that I have superimposed upon this chart over here. Now in the sign of Aries, we have 2 1/4 nakshatras. First is that of Ashwini, then Bharani, and 1 charan of Kritika, that is the lordship of Sun here. So we have 9 subs here, 9 subs in the second nakshatra of Bharani, and we have 4 subs in the nakshatra of Kritika. Now again, if you notice over here, the span, the longitudinal span of each of the subs is different here. Likewise, when we go to the sign of Cancer, we have the 2 1/4 nakshatras, and the various subs are shown over here. So in the sign of Aries, we have 22 subs. In the sign of Taurus, we have 19 and 21 each in the sign of Gemini and Cancer. Now, the precedence of the subs is that the first sub is always the same as that of the nakshatra lord. In the nakshatra of Ketu, the first sub is of Ketu, and thereafter the natural order of the nakshatras follow. In the second nakshatra of Venus, the first sub is that of Venus. Thereafter, the natural order follows: Venus, Sun, Moon, Mars, Rahu, Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury, Ketu. Likewise, in the sub of Sun, the first sub is that of Sun, and thereafter the natural order follows. When we come to the Cancer sign, we have the first sub of Moon. As I mentioned previously, that the sub of Moon gets divided when the sign changes from Gemini to Cancer. So the first sub is that of Moon, thereafter Mars and Rahu. In the nakshatra of Saturn, the first sub is that of Saturn, and thereafter the natural order follows up to Jupiter. Likewise, in the nakshatra of Mercury, that is the last nakshatra of this Gandanta, that is Ashlesha nakshatra, we have the sub starting from Mercury right up to Saturn in the natural order. Okay. Now, if you notice the, or of course, I have already covered that the span of each sub is different. Now, how do we calculate the span is what I'm going to cover hereafter. Now, this list shows as to how we get the 22 subs in the sign of Aries from 0 degrees up to 30 degrees. If you notice, the sign lord, of course, remains the same as Mars. Thereafter, we have the star lord of Ketu for 9 subs. Thereafter, star lord of Venus for the following 9 subs. And thereafter, the star lord of Sun for the rest of the 4 subs. So that makes a total of 22 subs. Now, again, if you notice here, the first sub in the star of Ketu is Ketu. The first sub in the star of Venus is Venus, and thereafter the natural order follows. And the first sub in the star of Sun, that is Kritika, the first sub is that of Sun. Now, if you notice here, as the sign changes, the sub of Rahu will get divided here, and the lordship changes from Mars to Venus. So the 23rd sub would be that of Venus, Sun, Rahu. So this is how these sensitive zones in the zodiac are made as per each of the subs. So in total we have 249 subs, and the precedence of the subs in each of the nakshatras is as per the lordship of the nakshatra. Now coming to the span, it is based mathematically upon the number of years allotted to each planet in Vimshottari Dasha. Now this is the list of number of years which have been allotted to each planet in the Vimshottari Dasha. Sun has the least number of years, that is 6 years, and Venus has the maximum number of years of 20 years. Now how do we calculate the span depending upon the Vimshottari Dasha is the same as we calculate our Dasha system based upon the Vimshottari Dasha. At the time of the birth, we calculate the balance of Dasha for each nativity for the Vimshottari Dasha. The logic for calculation of sub remains the same as what was taught by the rishis thousands of the years ago for Vimshottari Dasha. The logic remains same. Now let me explain this with the example of Rahu, which has 18 years in Vimshottari Dasha and covers a span of 2 degrees. For calculating the Rahu sub, now the span of each nakshatra is 13 degrees and 20 minutes. Converting this to minutes, we get 800 minutes. Now the logic used over here is that 120 years of this Vimshottari Dasha is equated to the span of one nakshatra, that is 800 minutes. So if 120 years is equivalent to 800 minutes, 18 years would be equivalent to as shown over here. So with simple mathematics, we come to a figure of 120 minutes that is equal to 2 degrees. Okay, likewise for calculating the span of each of these planets, we will replace the number of years allotted to each planet over here. For Ketu, we will place 7 over here. For Venus, we will place 20 over here, and likewise for the other planets. Now, 1 year represents 400 seconds or 6 minutes and 40 seconds, and 9 years are equivalent to 1 degree. So with these, we can calculate the number, the span allotted to each of these subs, depending upon the number of years allotted to that planet in Vimshottari Dasha. So this is how the subs are calculated scientifically and mathematically based upon the thousands of years of experience of our sages. Now, I shall be connecting with an overview of Krishnamurti Paddhati, which was propounded by Professor K S Krishnamurti, which uses the subs and the sublords effectively for reading any chart. Now, by virtue of having 249 sensitive zones or 249 subs in the zodiac, this system expands the dimension of time and pinpoints the behavior of planets. Now, just imagine that from 30 degrees that one had been using in the traditional astrology, we have moved down to 40 minutes of span of a sub of Sun. So that is the kind of precision that we are talking in this system. And this number of 249 is a very, very strong tool in the hands of an astrologer who uses horary astrology for reading of the charts. The traditional astrologers either would be using a number of 12 or a number of 108, that is 108 charans. 27 into 4 charans of the nakshatras make 108. So traditional astrologers use number 12, that is the 12th number of signs in the zodiac, or 108 charans for the horary charts, whereas this gives a leeway of 249 numbers for using the horary method. So this number, which is given by an inquirer or by the person who has come to you for astrological consultations, is basically giving you one of the sensitive zones amongst the 249, wherein the ascendant of the chart lies at that particular time for carrying on the judgment of the chart. It's a great tool in the hands of an astrologer vis-a-vis the traditional astrology. Very, very scientific and mathematical. Now, the system uses the Hindu zodiac with the KP Ayansha and uses only one dasa system, that is of Vimshotri Dasha. The charts are made by Placidus system of charts, and this is a Bhav Pradhan system. The Hindu aspects as well as the Western aspects are used for judgment. The Western aspects are used for the precise study of the dasa system as well as the inter-se relationship between Dasha, Bhakti and Antara lords. Now, this is the system which uses the sensitive zone where the cusp of any house lies. The sublord of that cusp, where the sublord of the sensitive zone, rather, where this cusp lies, gives the promise of the house. Now, whatever are the events promised in a particular house are either allowed or negated by this particular sublord itself. It is a unique system which uses the cusps of the houses for getting the promise of that particular house. For example, if one has to find the promise of children in a chart, the cuspal sublord of the fifth cusp will tell you whether that native will be blessed with children or not. What a strong system it is. The significators of the relevant houses, as also a unique system of ruling planets, is used along with the dasha and transit for timing of the events. In the second part of this presentation, I will be covering the timing of events in this system, which uses the sublords very, very effectively. Now, the system reveals the role of retrograde planets in a very, very elaborate way. Imagine the retrogression of a planet can tell you whether an event is to be denied for a particular nativity. There are no divisional charts and no yogas whatsoever used in this system. The 1,000 yogas or 1,500 yogas which are used in the traditional system are not used here. Not for a moment I am saying that the divisional charts or the yogas are redundant. Not for a moment I am saying that whatever the sages taught for centuries is incorrect. However, that is to be used in that traditional way of studying the charts and not used in this system of studying the charts. This is the system wherein the actual disposition of each planet is used for studying the various aspects of the chart. This is the only system where no pseudo positions of the planets are used. No divisional charts are used in this system. With this, I come to this short introduction of this overview of Krishnamurti Paddhati. And in the second session, I will be covering in detail as to how one uses the subs and the sublords for timing of the event. Thank you. And Wish you the very best.